Alrighty, so where's the Genshin content been? Where have I been? Why haven't I been making videos? I was making them daily. To be honest with you, the last couple videos I made, or some of them at least, like the buff your skills, not your stats, or whatever the fuck, that video was dog shit, and I only made it because I thought I needed to make daily content, which I think is garbage. The other fact that a lot of people are making shit like that, and if I'm gonna make videos, I want videos from my channel to have my kind of style in the video and information I feel like only I can provide and a perspective I can give that other people aren't going to just give, because I don't just want to shit out content because new game, make the money, because fuck that. I hate that shit. The shit's annoying. I don't want to make daily videos. You know how long it takes to edit that shit? It sucks. It's ass. Ha. So that's where I've been. Now that I'm making a video, obviously it's going to have my own taste into it, give you something valuable. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the resin change. In 1.1, we're going to go from 120 to 160 resin. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about this, most of which revolves around a lot of YouTubers and other people on Reddit going, change bad, just bigger cap, you didn't give more resin, obviously, change bad. And these people don't think objectively, and a lot of the YouTubers that I've seen, I took a gander at a couple videos, tried to make a video within the fucking hour that post came out, and basically said the same shit and didn't think for themselves, which I think is trash. So is this a good change? And I think it is, because the vocal minority of any fan base, of any content fucking anywhere, is the minority. It's the smallest group of people within the entire community yelling about this shit. And they might not like to admit it. I don't want to admit I'm in the minority when I'm talking about wanting more resin, but it's probably true. And the majority of people who maybe filled out the survey or stayed silent or tried to provide a little bit of feedback, they probably jump on, they play an hour or two, they jump off, they didn't really grind the game like a lot of people did. Not like me did, or not like maybe you watching did. But moving that cap up to 160 makes sense for a few reasons. One, you can only get a maximum amount of 180 resin a day. So that means they're only missing 20 resin a day. So the people who are still vigilantly not capping their resin still get a benefit, but for those people, they're not getting annihilated or feel like they're time constrained or they're getting destroyed, right? On top of that, in the battle pass, they said they're going to change the resin requirement of the weekly, I believe, instead of 1600 down to about 1200-ish, I think was the estimate. So that's also a lot more friendly for players who obviously can't play that much. So they're putting effort towards the majority of the player base, which is better for them. And they're gonna piss people off in the minority because any change ever will. Because obviously we just want to grind the game. We just want to play the game. And the biggest sentiment I hear over and over again, including for my own video, is, we love the game. Just let us play more of it. The more I look at this and the more I look at their other content, which I'll get into in a moment, is that we will get to that point, but I believe the game came out too early. I think the game came out about 2 months early, and this is almost like the beta access. This isn't like a full game. I believe it came out just a little too early for what it should have been. So let's try and keep that in mind when we're looking at the current content that we have. But the second reason why I think this resin change makes a lot of sense, and why this resin change was probably already in the chamber before many people said anything, was think about the leak we got of the concentrated resin. If you don't know what concentrated resin is, it's essentially a system where you turn 80 resin into 2 resin tokens that you can use to get double the reward in a 20 resin activity, saving you time. And we had 120 as our resin cap. We still had 40 resin left over that they were gonna have to log in a second time during the day because they don't have that much time in the first place. So it saves them from logging in a second time. It raises the cap so the general player base has more resin to play with in their small allotted amount of time. It just makes sense all around. Even though it's something I would like to see improved even more, it's a good change. And in the previous resin video I made, the one worry I had was we weren't going to hear anything. Nothing. They were just going to keep it as is, not address it. That's what I was worried about. So they're very receptive to feedback and improving the game. The other thing people aren't really doing right now is they're not looking at their previous game, Honkai Third Impact. I have these brought up for us to look at because no one's looking at the dev cycle of Honkai Third Impact and then relaying it to what Genshin could be. Everyone is just seeing Genshin as itself because they got these fucking blinders on. They don't want to look left or right. They're not paying attention to shit. So these are people that I've listed here that did play Honkai 3rd Impact that I believe give us a good idea of what we can expect throughout the game. So he asks these questions here. How did the progression system work in general? Was it gated? 2. Was there a system around character dupes? 3. How did nerfs and buffs get handled? Was there compensation? 4. Did they ever mess up a character like Monogate? 5. About gacha comparison rates. Was the gacha a lot worse or a lot better in Honkai's game? And 6. Reaction to feedback. How did they respond to feedback? And the general consensus is, as far as the progression is concerned, we're seeing the same exact shit that we were seeing from Honkai. Like this guy said here. First month, you speed through without any concern. Once you hit 30, story missions have minimum ranks. We saw those minimum ranks earlier on in the Genshin cycle. Once you hit 50, around 5 months later, you don't have money for your skills. You're running out of everything. Oh no, I have nothing. This lasts until about level 70, but by this time, you're over half a year, your stuff is maxed, you have a bunch of money to spend, whatever. So this consensus through these other posts, I'll post a link to this in the description if you'd like to read these. That consensus is about the same. This is the most descriptive of it, which is why I went with this one. We're on the same track for Genshin. Now let's talk about the dupes. Dupes are about the same. Characters get better skills, better stats, but in that game, you took their S ranks and then you upgraded them to double S or triple S by putting more dupes in. That's how that system worked. As far as the buffs and nerfs part of it, I'm mainly going off of this person's post once again because it's quite detailed and I like it a lot. Essentially, as a TLDR, some things were buffed. Out of beta, there was definitely some nerfs if things were too powerful. If there was a mistake on something, like they had a weapon that was upgraded that didn't work correctly, but there's a better weapon that people poured a lot of resources into that they could have been using because people didn't understand how the game worked. You can see here, they implemented a compensation material refund to everyone for up to 3 max instances of it. So, good. That's good. Here's where it becomes a bit different between Honkai and Genshin, where I'm obviously a bit more towards the pessimistic side of things, where I look at this and I go, maybe they're trying to go piggy whale up, piggy piggy oink oink, which is in Honkai 3rd Impact, their rates were guaranteed after a certain amount of drops. None of this 50% bullshit. Guaranteed. So if we were to equate that to Genshin, instead of spending 200 to guarantee your character, you had to spend 400 in Genshin to guarantee your character, because if you didn't get it the first time, you're guaranteed on the 180th roll to get that character. And if you're interested in how some of the Honkai 3rd Impact shit works, I've read through this little walkthrough guide here. I'll post it below as well, because it's kind of interesting to read through and think about the parallels of the game. But this is the biggest part that I think people need to pay attention with this, is that how did they react to feedback? And all of these posts, the consensus is there wasn't a lot at the start, but they continued to work on it. They continued to improve it. But one of the interesting things I saw in here was from this post, particularly talking about the gacha rates. In Honkai, they've also compensated for this by making the old gacha characters grindable and making already grindable characters even easier to grind. A lot of new characters also tend to be extra easy to obtain on the patch they released. I expect Genshin's characters to end up easier to upgrade their constellations over time, but this probably won't come immediately. Now, so here's my 5-head thought about what this could be. A lot of people have said, why aren't you using these dungeons anymore? They're useless, they don't do anything. What if using that Honkai 3rd Impact system later on, they add the older characters grindable with very small drop rates from these dungeons later on in the game, so you can actually upgrade these characters that you have, so you can max constellation these characters when they become old, and this system could be implemented region after region. These things are on the map for a very odd reason, and they're just sitting there and no one knows why. I have a potential theory, like I said, that they might be usable to grind out characters when they become added here when they're older. But that's really all the thoughts I had on it. This turned more into a rambly kind of thing, I guess, because I just had these ideas in my head I wanted to get out. But that's the kind of videos I'm going to make. Don't expect me to make a lot of regular content unless there's something I feel like I can actually provide from my end of it. Otherwise, I don't want to sit here and waste your time with the same build plus attack and build plus crit rate and plus crit damage. They're good. Because why the fuck would I do that? What a waste of time for me and for you. Hopefully you found this information interesting, and I hope you have a good one. Bye!